高端访谈专访诺贝尔经济学奖获得者赫克曼。他曾获中国政府友谊奖。
Yes, no, I appreciated that very much. I am working a lot in China. I find it a very interesting place.
他说，他目睹了中国发展的巨大成就。
Fast growing, very vibrant. You could feel the optimism in everybody's body, in their faces.
他说，他对中国经济的乐观来源于自己长期的观察。
The people are intelligent. The society is rich in a fundamental way. And it has the Chinese have always been very pragmatic and very realistic.
高端访谈，敬请收看。
关注国际焦点，洞察世界风云。大家好，欢迎来到本期的高端访谈，我是邹韵。今年是“15+5”开局之年，全球目光聚焦中国高质量发展和科技创新。今天我们要对话的嘉宾是诺贝尔经济学奖获得者、美国芝加哥大学教授詹姆斯·赫克曼。长期关注中国议题的他，如何看待人工智能持续赋能各行各业？他会怎样解读中国的经济发展和创新生态？对于科学探索与人才培养，长期深耕学术的他，又有着怎样独特的体会呢？今天我们一起在对话中寻找答案。
当前，中国的人工智能产业稳步发展，技术创新与场景应用同步推进，智能算力持续提升。在2026年春晚的舞台上，节目《5bot》将传统功夫与智能机器人相结合，人机协同演绎，刚柔并济，生动展现中国人工智能在精准控制、集群协作与文化创新上的最新成果。随着第15个5年计划的开启，人工智能正以磅礴之势，深度赋能千行百业，成为驱动经济社会高质量发展的核心引擎。芝加哥大学教授、2000年诺贝尔经济学奖获得者詹姆斯·赫克曼教授表示，中国人工智能发展的优势体现在诸多方面，相关技术将成为经济增长的重要驱动力。
Professor Heckman, thank you so much for joining us on Leaders Talk. How has AI empowered and transformed us?
This process is one of a lot of transition. A lot of new things are being done. A lot of new skills are being done. A lot of new opportunities are opening up. That people talk about exposure of jobs to various kinds of AI. But exposure doesn't necessarily mean job loss. Exposure could mean job enhancement. So if I'm working at a factory and AI can help me manufacture whatever product I am or do my job better, then that actually it can enhance my employment. Generative AI essentially produces new ideas or helps you crystallize new ideas.
Right. More high-skilled work. Yeah.
Well, what had been high-skilled, I mean, think of what a lawyer does. A good lawyer is not only going to court and interviewing people and doing presentations on behalf of clients, but there's an awful lot of legal research going on. So you have individuals, law clerks, and the lawyers themselves to be scanning the literature. A good AI can help you scan the literature tremendously, bring to bear all the case law that's relevant. But more likely in the generative AI, it's making you more productive and more effective. And so a lot of the drudge work that goes with being a lawyer and being an accountant and being a bank clerk and so forth, a lot of that can be replaced. But a lot of these professional jobs are more than just drudge work. They involve thinking, execution, creativity and thinking about new ideas, and then freeing yourself to go out and find new customers and new clients and new business.
赫克曼是微观计量经济学的开创者，因对微观计量经济学理论与方法的发展，特别是对分析选择性抽样的原理和方法所做出的杰出贡献，与丹尼尔·麦克法登共同获得2000年诺贝尔经济学奖。赫克曼长期致力于研究和解决全球社会经济问题，尤其是人力资本、早期儿童发展和社会流动性问题。以他名字命名的赫克曼曲线，因为清晰描述了儿童早期发展对于个体与社会发展、国家人力资本积累的积极作用，受到各国政策制定者的关注。最近10几年，中国成为赫克曼的重要研究对象。2014年， 惠誉中国山村入户早教计划正式启动。赫克曼以顾问身份为项目设计和研究工作提供学术咨询和建议。2019年9月30日，赫克曼获中国政府友谊奖。
Professor Heckman, and also you were awarded the Friendship Award, which
Yes.
is the highest honor granted by Chinese government to
Yes,
foreign
no, I
experts
appreciate that
like
very
you.
much, yes.
And that was given 2019.
2019,
Yeah,
exactly.
in recognition of your outstanding contribution to China's economic and social progress. So what does this award mean to you, Professor?
Well, so it meant a lot to me. It's good. I mean, I didn't realize I would get the award. I was pleased. First of all, I went to the ceremony, and that was the 70th anniversary
Right, that's
ceremony.
right.
So I saw the parade in Tiananmen Square, went through the Forbidden City. I'd been to Forbidden City on several occasions, but never so extensively. So we were taking tours, taking us back. So I was very pleased.
Oh, really? It was a little bit unexpected to you at that
Yes,
moment?
I certainly didn't know that I was going to get it. Not even sure I deserve it. I mean, I'm sure there are people who've given more to China than me, but I am worried. I am working a lot in China. I find it a very interesting place. Yes. But it's the dynamism. I'll tell you what I find interesting about China. My father grew up in an area that's an area called Oklahoma. Do you know Oklahoma?
Yeah, I've been there.
Western Oklahoma and Texas, in the area of the Permian Basin. You've been to Borger, Texas, or Amarillo? So that was oil boom country in the 1920s and 30s when my father was young. And he told me a lot about the boom towns that were there. So I felt that kind of dynamism also at work in China. It was opening up the markets. There was a lot of entrepreneurship. People were going in and trying new ideas. There was an expansion of the country's production, I should say, and exchange with the world. Quality
Fast
to it.
growing, very vibrant.
Fast growing, very vibrant. You could feel the optimism in everybody's body, in their faces, and in the projects they were describing. So I like that very much. There was a sense that there was vitality, which I saw, a real sense of vitality and engagement with Chinese scholars and engagement with Chinese coming into the world in a very, very general way.
As a renowned economist in human development, you spoke highly about China's efforts in expanding women's access to education and their broader participation in labor force, calling it one of the major contributors to China's economic success.
It has been,
why this factor especially stood out to you?
Well, for one thing, unlike many countries, and remember this started around the time of the 1949, and so what happened is that many countries in the West, the labor force participation of women was much lower. The roles for women were much more prescribed. There were in many cases women couldn't become professionals. In the United States, it was even the case that it was very difficult for women to get jobs in occupations like lawyering or forms of scientific research and many other professions outside of teaching, librarianship, nursing, medical care. And so what happened was that China brought in these people into the economy, productive people, and invested in them, and it also gave them education. So it made it much better for the status of the economy and for the women. So it gave women empowerment, which weren't there. So you can see, like right now, more girls are going to college than boys, and the opportunities opened up, and those are opportunities for the economy. So you have a large number of very brilliant Chinese workers, some women, some men, a lot of smart women, and I think that's a real advantage.
You first came to China in 1997, has since then come to the country for many times. So which part of the country's development impressed you for all those years?
Well, China's developed so rapidly, it's hard. I mean, if you look at China as a whole, not just what I've worked on, but if you can look at the development, both in terms of occupations, you look in terms of industry, the fact that it's moved up the quality chain in terms of producing goods, and also had much better logistics and the whole analysis. If you look at the infrastructure, for example, in China, I remember coming here in 1997 to the old airport in Beijing. And now you look at the airports now in Beijing.
We have two in the capital.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is you can see that the infrastructure, the roads, the trains, the airplanes, the whole country has become much more vital and active in the sense of having communications channels and logistics. So the promoting a very positive You know, there was a book written in maybe 10 years ago by a New York Times reporter who was quoting Obama when he visited China. And he was Obama was admiring the infrastructure that was here in China being built, bridges, roads, and so forth. So he was talking about the fact, you know, America had gotten involved in all these wars. We're spending our money in Iraq and Afghanistan, and China wasn't. And that was enable them to be able to bring their people up and to bring the roads and the whole industry up. And then you add to that the fact that China has reached much greater level of competence in many different areas of world trade and world scholarship. So in many, many different ways, the level of China has been risen almost in every sector of the economy. So that part of it, I think, is very impressive.
Professor, you expressed your concerns for the reciprocal tariff imposed by the Trump administration to other countries. Dozens of influential economists, including you, signed an anti-tariff declaration, which voiced very strong opposition to tariff as well as protectionism.
Yes.
So can you share with some of the major concerns that motivated economists like you to do this, which is not the first time? 2019, the same kind of similar letter to the Trump administration. So why?
Well, I think the reason is that the policies that's being adopted are without any foundation.
But from economic front,
from an economic standpoint, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
The calculation of the tariffs was not founded on any basic economic principle. If you look at the rates that have been figured nation by nation, there's no basis for that. There's no logic in that.
What economic catastrophe could impact it?
What's happened is the cost of living has gone up. The idea is you put a tariff, and we're going to produce this in the United States, and that's going to bring more jobs back. And first of all, it's going to make it more inefficient because we're not efficient at growing avocados or coffee or many of these things that we can't grow. Right. And secondly, that it's really creating harm for a lot of poorer people, workers, and others who are buying these goods. The coffee is pretty widely consumed, and it's not grown in the country. So you say, well, what? Coffee gone up 15, 20%, 25%? I've heard different figures.
What are the biggest global disruptions that you concern as an economist?
I think
tariffs to the global economy, to the global trade?
No, but it's creating a sense of instability in the trade. Right now, when tariffs come and go, when people negotiate a tariff, we know from basic economic principles that when you start creating uncertainty of this sort, people hold back. They don't invest. They're being very careful about creating long-term relationships. So we're destroying those relationships, and we're making the United States a much riskier trading partner. So what had been a pattern of comparative advantage and gain. So look at all the new trading patterns that are being reassembled as a result to get around dealing with the United States. So now if the United States is capricious the way it is, then many countries don't want to deal with anymore. They find alternative supply routes and so forth and so on.
As a renowned economist, what do you work?
But I mean the following way, that you think of working in a coal mine, you shovel coal and put it in a car and bring it to the earth. And no, what I'm doing is doing something I'm passionately interested in.
Smartly.
Just deeply curious. So I have a curiosity factor that's very deep. And so when I'm answering questions, I find the greatest satisfaction. The great pleasure comes from answering something new.
Professor, as a Nobel laureate yourself, so if there's just one advice that you would like to give to the young economists who also aspire maybe to become a Nobel laureate in the future, just one advice, what would it be?
Well, I would just say follow your curiosity to the point of exhaustion. You just stay with the problem until you really understand it. That's what I would say.
追随好奇心，探究真问题。这是赫克曼赠予年轻学者的箴言，也是他个人学术人生的写照。跨越学科边界，历经近60载耕耘，他始终在研究中追寻着热爱与乐趣。
Well, Professor, you had background in mathematics and physics, and
Yes.
you have described your switch to economics as kind of accidental. So now, about 6 decades in the research of economics, which part of the journey that you enjoy the most?
Well, the thing that I've always enjoyed, it's a private enjoyment too, is there are certain problems that I've started to address, and as I've gone into them, I've learned more and more about them. And as I've learned more about them, there's a sense of pleasure that comes from that discovery. A thing that's very interesting here is the sense really of going into some new area and then coming out uncertain about the answer and then seeing what the answer is, whichever way it comes out. And sometimes it's very surprising. Sometimes it's very disappointing. Sometimes you haven't really done what you hoped you would have done.
Right.
But that's also interesting. And then you can learn. So I think it's I very much enjoy learning. And so learning even from my own mistakes. And so, you know, if I can challenge, it's not a question of my going out on the balcony and saying, here, I did it. It's more like a private joy that comes from understanding something that I didn't understand before.
You know, economists always tend to prioritize hard concepts like quantifiable metrics, interest rate, right, or monetary aggregates. But you have emphasized the importance of soft elements like mother's love or mental care or mental support to someone.
I had an interview a long time ago from public radio on some paper I wrote about the return on early investment in children. And I remember I said I really thought the love of the mother was really very important. It really was true that this parental engagement is so critical.
When you write the book, you said that you were always very positive, very confident about the development of China. So where does this constant optimism come from?
Well, I think it comes from several forces. Dealing with the Chinese and seeing the vitality in the society. And I think there's a fundamental energy there. The elements are there. The vitality is there in terms of the industries, the universities. The country's vital. The people are intelligent. The society is rich in a fundamental way. And it has the Chinese have always been very pragmatic and very realistic.
Very hardworking.
Hardworking, too. That's why I like Chinese students. I love Chinese students.
Yes.
No, a lot of the American students are lazy as hell. They won't work. There's a sense of pride of self and a sense of pride in their work. And I value that. I have other students. That's not this. So I think China still has a work ethic. But I've got a sense that the next generation of Americans, my children have that work ethic. But there are a lot of people out there who don't seem to. You know, a lot of these drug addicts and people living in these various enclaves in the country, and they're just dependent people. They're not, and they have no pride. They're not working. They're, you know, using drugs heavily. They're living off welfare. They're doing all of these, and they just seem to be people who are just parasites on the society. They're not aiming. Look at China as a place that has a deep sense of values, hard work, and the values that I think are truly virtues, character values. So there's a sense, but see, China also has a chip on its shoulder. It does. No, it's had a chip on its shoulder since 1840, the Opium Wars, right? And so there's a sense you can see it, and I don't mind. That's kind of good, because they're getting stronger and stronger, and you can't help but admire it in the sense that, yes, they are stronger, and they are doing things much more wisely in many ways than what we're doing. So there's a sense in which there's more of a sense of purpose in China, don't you think? That the people are more... Most of the Chinese students that I deal with and people I deal with, even though they may disagree on details, have this sense of unity and pride in China.
Right.
And I think that's lacking with a lot of Americans.
Thank you so much, Professor. And thank you. It's a great...
Well, good luck.
在专访当中，赫克曼教授强调，无论在经济领域还是学术层面，中国都展现出了蓬勃的生机，并正在以更加开放的姿态融入世界。他还强调，在同中国人打交道的过程当中呢，他感受到了中国人民强烈的民族自豪感和辛勤工作、脚踏实地的务实精神。他也祝福中国再创辉煌。感谢您收看本期的高端访谈，我是邹韵，我们下期再会。